Okay, so let us start. Prabhupada ki jai. Om Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Nananjana Shalakaya Chakshumitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manabhishtam Sthapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vittam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakana Vittamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनो बंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरि प्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धवेव च पतितां नाम पावनेभ्यो वैष्णव्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी इति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चादेशतारिणे जयो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna. So what we were doing in the last class, we looked at the preface of this Bhagavad Gita as it is, where we looked at the focus on the what was the Prabhupada's mood and mission. So he's very compassionate, and he wants, and his mission is to present the Bhagavad Gita as it is, as the Lord wants. So he was very convinced with the teachings of the instructions given by the Lord for getting liberating from this world, material world. So that was his mission. That was revealed clearly in the preface. And then we looked at the verses from in chapter 1 from 1 to 22. Okay, then so we saw the Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra was the one who opened the verse. Anyone remembers the first verse? Hare Krishna. Can anyone recite the first verse? Dharma Kshetra. Yes,
धर्मक्षेत्रे कुरुक्षेत्रे समवेतायुत्सवः मामकः पाण्डवाश्चैव किम् अकुर्वत Sanjaya. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Matin. Hare Krishna. So, Kim Akurvata. So, what is Dhritarashtra was asking? What were the Pandavas, the sons of Pandavas, and my sons are doing at the Kurukshetra? And then we looked at when Duryodhana goes to Dronacharya, then we saw the liberal nature of the Dronacharya, Brahmanas, because that was the Vedic culture, how Dronacharya knowingly that Dhristadyumna will be the one cause for his death, but still he accepted him as his student and taught him all the military warfare. Okay, so then we looked at Duryodhana's diplomacy, how like a politician he was chastising his Dronacharya so that he won't be partial to his student, pet student, that was say Pandavas, and he will fight on his side properly. And also he was talking about the strength of his army and his Bhishma Dev, and he, politically he was praising Kripacharya and so that his side warriors will be encouraged and not discouraged. And also though he spelled out the strength of the other side, but still he said we need to be careful, and he was praising his own. So that political diplomacy he was fomenting. And then we looked at the what was the signs of victory for the Pandavas. Arjuna's depicting his flag with Hanuman because he wanted the blessings of Hanuman, how he brought victory to Lord Rama. He wanted his blessings for this battle. And then we ended up with Arjuna ordering Krishna to take his chariot to the center of the middle of the both armies, on that side Pandavas and this Kauravas. So then also we looked at uh, Prabhupada's statement was there, no, that Vaishnavas will also be trained to kill the demons. That is, they are not only the real bhaktas of the Lord, but at times when it's required, and if they are a thing, they will take up arms for the Lord's sake. So we had a proper understanding of that, we saw. Now we'll continue with the remaining verses in chapter. Okay. So what was the thing? Chapter 1, the first one was the Dhritarashtra's doubt. What they are doing, he was very anxious. And then in verse 3 to 11, we saw the Duryodhana's diplomacy. 14 to 20 was the signs of victory for the Pandavas. And then we are going to see 21 to 27 is the Krishna as a Bhakta Vatsala, the way they think. Then from 27 to 46, we see the Arjuna's 4 reasons for not fighting and why he wants to withdraw from the fight. So, and Bhakta Vasalam is how the Lord reciprocates to his devotees. He will even take up to be the chariot, driving the chariot for his devotee. That also he will come down, but still he will be still Achyuta, right? And then what did we saw yesterday as the Mataji gave us the Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra. We started this Bhagavad Gita starts off with that verse, Dharma Kshetra Kurukshetra, where there's a religious field. And again, in 18.7, that is in the 18th chapter, then again it ends up with Adhikshate Chayam Imam Dharmamyam Samavadam Avayo Nanak Ignena Tenaham Ishta Swayam Iti Me Mita. What does it say? The Lord says, I declare that he who studies the sacred conversation of ours worships me by his intellect. So, Dharmyam Samavadam, that is the Vadam, that is the dialogue that which took. He is, by this dialogue between him and Arjuna, he gives the complete nuances of Dharma. He completely talks about Dharma from everything, all aspects. So, like, when it comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we should just accept, because only he can talk about Dharma so completely in all aspects, right? So like, say, few years back, we had this monetization, right? And who did announce it? That time the 500 rupee note, 1000 rupee note, and all got devalued, right? But the announcement was made not by the finance minister, not by his officers there. It was made by Prime Minister. So the minute it was made by the Prime Minister, the whole people of India took it up, because it is coming from the topmost chief executive officer. So we have to just oblige by it, and no questions to be asked. So we just follow that, right? Same way, when the Lord is talking about Dharma, then we have to accept. So only he can tell the whole thing. But why did he choose in the battlefield, that Kurukshetra? And even to give this, speak about religion, about Dharma, he needs a person to tell it to, or needs a person who can ask him questions, right? I need a person to ask him questions, and that too, to not just question. I think it should be like for an ordinary person, no? When a common man will have certain doubts like that, he needs a person. Only then he can explain to him the whole thing, right? So that's what happens here. So it starts with Dharma, when the questions Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, the verse, and the final end, it says, who accepts him, the thing, right? So, and then what happens? So this is how. So when Arjuna was asked him to take his chariot to the middle of the thing, between Kauravas and the army and the thing, then what does the Lord do? In the verse 1.27 is he takes the chariot in front of Bhishma there and Dronacharya, Pramukta. So he takes there, and then what does he say in a casual manner? Paschyatyam samayatam kuroti. Just behold the Kurus. So the very intention, because he wanted to bewilder the Arjuna. So what he does, he takes a chariot right in front of Bhishma Dev and Dronacharya. And he knows that Bhishma Dev is the supreme, I mean, he's the exalted personality, right? And he was his grandfather, great grandfather, right? Bhishma, Pitama, right? And Dronacharya was his guru, right? So he took straight in front of them, and then he says, just behold the Gurus are there, all there. So what happens to Arjuna then? So this is what the Lord did, the thing, so that he can put him into bewilderment, right? And also dangerous. Seeing the whole thing, what happened. So now, as the Lord expected, it had put him into bewilderment, and Arjuna puts forth 4 reasons for not fighting. So all of us know. What are the 4 reasons for not fighting? Anybody can list out? I think you'll be being in many other levels. Hare Krishna.
Compassion,
As compassion, then
loss of enjoyment,
then
fear of sinful reactions,
okay, then yes, Prabhuji.
destruction of family traditions.
Yes. So what was it? It was compassion. And compassion we see in 1.27. There's no enjoyment, 30 to 35. And then sinful reactions in these verses. Arjuna is putting these 4 reasons. And then finally he gives the flow chart for destruction of dynasty in the verses 37 to 43. So compassion. In compassion in the verse 27, what we see, Kripaya Paravisto. That means by Kripaya is compassion, Paraya means a higher grade, Avista overwhelmed. So he was not just commenting, he was overwhelmed of the highest grade. You know? And why did it happen? When he was there in the front and he could see millions of soldiers, this side, that side, and some are on all Maharathis with their Sainya, and then there were warriors on the elephants, warriors on foot, and soldiers on the foot, and soldiers on the horses. And then what he could think of is that this battle involved, and actually it was a huge battle. We know that Mahabharata is a huge battle which took place, and there will be bloodshed. And blood will just flow, and there will be severed heads, hands, legs, and all peace suffering he could envisage. And not only human harms and things, he could also, even the animals, that elephants, horses, all they'll be cut up, and there'll be just bloodshed everywhere. So this he couldn't think. When he just thought of it, he was overwhelmed by compassion. He couldn't think how to. When the son of Kunti saw all this in different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with the compassion. That too, with because Bhishma Dev was there, and it's all friends and his sons and grandsons and relatives, cousins, everywhere on this side as well as on the other side, and huge soldiers. So that was the Kripaya Paravishta. That was of the higher grade. He was overwhelmed. So he says, how I can kill these relatives and things. And he was compassion. And then continues to say, there's no enjoyment here for me. Because how can I enjoy when there won't be any Kim Bogaya? Okay. O given, Govinda, what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, and all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield. And they will also be killed. And what pleasure will be derived from killing the sons of destruction? So this was what is continues to tell the Lord. So, like even now in the material world also, if we don't have friends to share our happiness, like you see a lot of people and they go onto the Facebook, and if they've gone into some holiday and thing, they'll immediately share their photos, they'll immediately share their interest, or if they're a party, and many things. They like to share on the Facebook and the other, even on WhatsApp also. So that they like to share. So if you don't have friends, then you won't even have any enjoy. So how you can share? So this is what was the next thing he was thinking, and he was thinking in material way. Okay, he was only thinking of himself. So Prabhupada writes in the purport, everyone wants to show his opulence to friends and relatives. But Arjuna fears that all his relatives and friends will be killed on the battlefield and he'll be unable to share his opulence after victory. So this is something like, everyone also, all of us are like that. So he says there won't be any jump. If there's nobody there left to share this success or victory I have, then what is the point in having even 3 worlds? So what is the thing we see here? He's thinking, in the Prabhupada continues right in his lecture in London. He says he's thinking Krishna is not so important. My family is important because he's coming to the material plan. And although he's a devotee, right? So it only shows that he is in the lowest given, the lower Kanishta Adhikari, the lower stage in the devotion. So even how he can, but we know he's a religious person and he's an eternal son, a great friend of the Lord. How did he come to that level of Kanishta Adhikari to talk like this, right? And no one may be interested in Krishna consciousness. But his real, so what is the Prabhupada writes? The Kanishta Adhikari, he is in the lower stage of devotion. So he might be interested in Krishna consciousness, but his real interest is how to improve his material life. So that is how they define the Kanishta Adhikari, who has just entered into the Krishna consciousness. Still, he is in the lower stage of devotion, right? So how did Arjuna come to that level? Anyway, we'll discuss that later also, more how he's been put into Maya, right? So this is enjoyment. Next comes sinful reactions. So in sinful reactions, papam evashed asma. So he's thinking, I'll be entitled with papa. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors, right? Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? So here it is like killing your kinsmen. Actually, for him, his superiors are there in front of him. Like Bhishma Dev is there, Dronacharya is there. Even in chapter 2, we'll see how in those Vedic culture, even with the superiors, even if they are justified, they won't even get into a verbal argument. What we want. And here he is taking his arms and thing, and he's there in the battlefield trying to fight with them, okay, with the arms. But with superiors, you won't even get into a verbal argument. And for him, so to take up arms in front of them and to fight and to kill your own kinsman, he thinks he will incur sinful reactions. So actually, there are two verses like, two dharma. One is the Kula dharma and the other one is they are already done aggressors. Because in the Prabhupada writes in the purport, no, there are 6 types of aggressors whom where Manusmriti says you can kill them. So where Duryodhana and his people had done that, the Pandavas, they had done all that. They had poisoned them, they had burned their house, they had usurped their wealth, they insulted their wife, and they've done everything. So they were liable to. But here you have not only them, you have their superiors. So now he thinks, why at all kill the sons of Dhritarashtra? Though they had so much of greedy and things, at least I know the religious principles. So I know my duty, why I should incur these sins. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. So that's what he gets into that remorse. He says, he's willing to even forgive them. That is the religious, he's a Vaishnava, right? So then after that, in the other verses, what does he say? If all these elders are dead, then what happens? What happens to the family? Because the women will be will be unprotected, the children will be orphans, and there'll be so much of sufferings, right? When there's a death of family elders. So now Arjuna is giving a flow chart of what happens to how the dynasty can get degraded with the death of family elders. And what this thing envisaged by Arjuna, he envisaged this 5,000 years ago, right? But you can see the reflection of such things even today, even in the modern society. It's not like it is only happened at that time and nothing is happening now. Even today, at least in the West, there'll be a clear distinction. The minute the children come to the teenagers, they leave their family and they go on their way. And the parents are left. And when they grow old, they are all put into old age, right? And I mean, they think that younger generations think that older generation has nothing to contribute to their prosperity or to the wealth and things. So, but in Vedic times, where they was to value, they had the traditions and they were valuing the respect, integrity, and all that. That was those value system in life was being got from the elders, and they used to imbibe that culture, right? But once you are lost with them, what happens? You don't get. So, whatever was talked by Arjuna, you can see the same analysis even today, right? And people also move away. Even in India, you see a lot of children, they go away for far and wide for their uh, job, and they're leaving the elders here. And they're quite a big distance. And, there are a lot of things, slowly, it is coming. So, and also secular family and things like so death of family elders, then eternal family tradition is vanquished. Okay. And what happens? Then the family, because there's nobody to give them the values or to guide them, no guidance is there, then they will get into all irreligious practices. They will get involved for the children and the women also. So what happens? Degradation because they are not protected. So and that also you can see mostly is very prominent in the West where they mingle a lot, so men and women. So that can be understood degradation. And also in advertisements, you can see advertisement of automobiles, you see mostly women will be there, or in the thing, even in sports, there will see cheering ladies by the girls on either side of things. So like that. So where there is no protection, and what happens? Unwanted progeny. So when this happens, when there's unchaste and there's an unwanted progeny, they don't want. And what do? They will create havoc in the society. Even we have heard a lot of instances, like students in the school, they go to school, but they take with their guns and they shoot their teachers, shoot other friends, other students, just because might have got some bad marks in the thing, or they must have some remarks or something that have caused them, and they just take to this extreme thing. So this kind of havoc in the society, we are seeing it even today. So this is what happens when they are not guided and they have unwanted progeny, right? And there won't be any community projects because the society is not working together and the family welfare activities is devastated. So this flowchart of thing, which Arjuna envisaged, put up within 5,000 years ago, you can see reflecting in that even today's world, also in the modern age, right? So I think I'll take a stop here, break, and I'll ask, have you have any questions or comments till now? Hare Krishna. I'll just go back. I don't know how to go back and come. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Anybody has come? Any Prabhuji or to have add anything to this? Or Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mataji. I couldn't grasp the whole thing in a nutshell. If I say individually what you have explained is correct, means I could understand. But in a whole, if I want to say what we have discussed just now, I just fail to note it down mentally as well as in writing. So if you can just give a brief of what we have discussed so far.
A brief is that Arjuna was giving the 5 reasons. I mean, he gave a lot of. I mean, he was giving out his argument. He was putting in front of the Lord Krishna about he didn't want to fight. Okay, and you can put them into 5 parts. Like, it was compassion. Starts off with compassion.
Compassion.
Then he says there's no enjoyment in it. And then he says it is sinful reactions because and there'll be a destruction of dynasty. Okay. So the 5th one would be indecision. That comes in the chapter 2. All right. So compassion. Why he was compassion? Because you see the reaction of Duryodhana. Duryodhana he was not compassionate. He was worried. He was thinking, why they've got he couldn't expect such a army there. The Pandavas could get such a army and they have arranged it so well. So that fear and jealousy was there in this reaction. Okay. And he was trying to insult is the guru so that Dronacharya will fight, will make him man. But you see the reaction of Arjuna. Arjuna was compassionate. He says, why all these people have come? Because we are wanting a kingdom. Because that was the reason why Duryodhana didn't give them even 5 villages. And so the war was declared. And just for a kingdom, all these people, millions of soldiers are there, warriors are there, and they have come here for that. So he was feeling compassion to them. And he's telling how I can kill these relatives and my friends. They are not different. My grandsons are there, my sons are there, my things. So that compassion was there in him, which was driving him, telling him that I don't want to fight. And then he says, if these people are not there and they're all killed in this battle, then with whom shall I share my success? So that was his another thing. I won't have anybody to share with. So there's no enjoyment. No, even if I get this kingdom, I don't have anyone to share with. So there's no enjoyment in this, why at all fight? So that was another reason he was giving. He was continuing. And then he said, it is sin to kill your own kinsman because you're supposed to, as a Kshatriya, you're supposed to protect your relatives. You should protect them. Instead, I'm here standing and trying to kill them. So that means I will incur sinful reactions. So it is not right. It's not religiously right. Though they don't understand the Kauravas, but I know the religious principles. So I don't want to fight. I mean, it's not right. I'll incur sin. And then he says, okay, if the elders are all gone, then what happens to the women? What happens to the children? They'll be left unprotected. There won't be anybody to guide them. And slowly the family traditions will be lost. And then they will go into irreligious practices and women will be taken advantage and they will become unchaste and they will misled. And what happens? There will be unwanted progeny. And then all the projects which the community is to have, welfare projects, all will gone. So the dynasty will go away. So this is how he's logically putting his arguments in front of Krishna. So this is how. Have you got the points, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, it's clear now. Makes
So
sense.
this is the flow, he says he couldn't take it. He says the minute he saw the army, such huge thing, and they all have come to fight because they wanted the kingdom, right? Pandavas wanted the kingdom, and that's how some people joined Pandavas, some people joined Kauravas. And for that, and these people are going to lay their lives, there'll be bloodshed, the suffering, he couldn't take it. He says there's so much suffering. And he was overwhelmed with compassion. Whereas Duryodhana had the fear. He wanted to get it at any cost. He didn't mind even giving up his friends' lives because he was prepared to sacrifice his brothers, he sacrifice his friends also, as long as he can get his kingdom. As long as he doesn't want to lose. That was this mentality for Duryodhana. The mentality of Dhritarashtra was he wants the crown. It doesn't matter whether his sons are slaughtered or Pandavas are slaughtered. No, he wants to have his kingdom. He doesn't want to give up that crown. He was that. So these are the two personalities. And then you see the personality of Arjuna. He was so much overwhelmed. Finally, what happens? He gives up his bow and he comes down from the chariot. He says, I don't want to fight. So these reasons were, he was very compassionate and he finds no enjoyment in this. And he says, if I kill them, I'll incur sins, and I don't want to do that. And the dynasty will be lost. Elders all will go away, and they won't. The children and the women at home, they will be suffering, and the whole in the future, the generations won't be there. So this is how he puts. He was so much grief. He puts down his bow and arrow, and he puts. So the question would come now: why did Krishna do this? Why did the Lord? Okay, we know that Bhagavad Gita is spoken here in the battlefield. And now the other question will come into our mind is, Arjuna is such a great warrior. He's a great warrior, right? Everyone knows. He has got a lot of weapons, he has got from thing, and he's great. Even about a few months earlier, they were in the Virat kingdom, where they were in cognition, right? So at that time, when towards almost end of their cognition period, period, so Kauravas were trying to find out where they were and all that. And then they finally located that Virat kingdom must be the place, and they tried to strategically try to bring them out of their kingdom. So they went and took away their cows. And what happened is the cows, when they take, I think you all know the story, but anyway, I'll repeat it. So the Virat, then the king won't be there because he would have been drawn away with his army to another area to fight because there was somebody attacking that end. So the son will be the Putra, Rajputra. He says, okay, I'm there. I'll go and bring the cows. I'll fight these people. But I don't have a chariot. So Yudhishthira, who's there, like acting as the minister there, he says, why don't you take Brihannala, the dance teacher? He knows to drive the chariot. You take it. Because actually it was Arjuna. So they go. And then when the Rajputra sees the whole army, he gets so scared and he wants to run away. Then Arjuna will pull him back, and then he takes over, and then he'll fight. See, he's fighting. Huge army has come. Bhishma Dev has come, Dronacharya, Karna, Duryodhana, Dushasana, Dronacharya. Oh, huge army has come to take away the cows. They have done it. Seeing that army, this Rajputra had got scared. But Arjuna will fight single-handedly, put them all unconscious, takes away the cows, and he brings back. So when he didn't get bewildered then, why now? See, he single-handedly fought there, no? The whole army he saw and he fought. But now, in Kurukshetra, when he comes, why does he put down his arms? That's a question comes. No, in few months, it's not even long. Very few months ago, he has done it. So that is what we have to focus on and think why it happened to Arjuna. Because the Lord wanted to teach this Bhagavad Gita, give these instructions in the battlefield openly, not in the palace or anywhere. He wanted to give these instructions on dharma, on religion, at the battlefield, so that the whole world will see. Because the whole world has come there, no? From all over the world, only the army is standing there. So it is an open thing. So he puts him, Arjuna, into delusion. So that he will ask as a ordinary person the questions, and then he can give the instructions of the dharma. Because it is his, every yuga he comes. So that, that for that age, what should be the dharma? He comes to give the religion when it is being not properly managed. That was his purpose to come down. So that is the purpose happens, and how Arjuna has been put into delusion. Actually, he could do that. So that's what Prabhupada writes in his introduction. When you read the introduction on page 8, there he writes, being an associate of Lord Krishna, Arjuna was above all ignorance. But Arjuna was put into ignorance on the battlefield of Kurukshetra just to question Lord Krishna about the problems of life. So this is what we have today. The Bhagavad Gita today, even today, you can go to it because the problems of life is still there. It is even applicable today to us also. So he says about the problems of life so that the Lord could explain them for the benefit of future generations of human beings. So, and chalk out the plan of life. Chalk out. See, he gives us nicely, Prabhupada writes, so that we can understand, okay, why we have come here, what is the purpose of life, and such things which is going to explain the thing. So he puts him into ignorance so that he can question the Lord. It's not that he couldn't fight, but he was made like that. It was put in so that the Lord could give, because he knows when to give the instructions, when to do it. So that's a thing. And it's his plan to bring them everybody into, he says in chapter 15, that it is my plan to bring them everybody onto one battleground, and you be the instructor. So that's the thing. And then he brings them and chart out the plan of life. So then man can act accordingly and perfect the mission of human life. Actually, after telling everything, in chapter 18, Krishna finally asks him, you have listened carefully to everything what I have said. As your ignorance gone, your ajnana, then moha, illusion, I have cleared it with the instructions. Then Arjuna replies, yes, now all my doubts have gone. My illusion has gone. I've regained my memory. I know what is the self-realization. I'll do whatever you ask me to do. Correct. So this is the whole thing. Purpose of the whole Bhagavad Gita is for the Lord to give the instructions for us, for future generations. So chalk out the plan of life. Now the next question comes. So I've said, has you understood, Prabhuji? Have any other questions? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes.
In the previous levels, it was told that Bhagavad Gita was heard by only, I think, 5 people in the battlefield.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yeah. It was only heard by Arjuna. It was heard by Sanjay. And then Dhritarashtra was heard it. And Vyasadeva. And Vyasadeva also. Yeah. But Vyasadeva wrote it down, Prabhuji. After that, he wrote it down so that it will be available to us in Kali Yuga. Because earlier in other yugas, they used to only go by verbal. They will, acharyas will talk and the students will hear and they learn like that. And they'll pass it on like that by hearing and talking out. Whereas in Kali Yuga, we don't have that much of memory or intelligence to just grasp it by hearing. And we won't be able to retain it. So it had to be written it down. That is why Vyasadeva, during the end of Dwapara Yuga, he sat and wrote down everything. The Vedas, he segregated them, and then he gave the Bhagavatam. Then he wrote the Mahabharata, that Puranas, 2 Puranas, Ramayana and Mahabharata. And in Mahabharata, he has inserted this Bhagavad Gita. So he wrote it down. Okay, Prabhuji?
Okay, Mataji. Okay.
So that is why it was given in writing. So we have that today. Srimad. Otherwise, it was always spoken. And it then goes by disciplic succession too, from the guru to the disciple, and then acharyas goes down like that. So this is, and if you look at the questions, now in the further we'll see that. But there's one more thing which I need to point out was the comment which Prabhupada writes in the women are not Dharma Krishya Prasham Kulastriyas Tishtodashya Varna Shankara. That is, when irreligion is prominent in the family, O Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood, descendant of Rashni comes unwanted progeny, right? And then there is a Chanakya comment in the Prabhupada writes in the purport, in the 1.40, that women are not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy. So this, I think this, many people had asked me questions on how did it come? Why women are not generally not very intelligent and therefore not trustworthy? Why did Chanakya Pandit write like that? And why did Prabhupada included it? So because this could be what you call misused. Even in Krishna conscious movement, Prabhuji can take it out and say, no, women Vaishnavis cannot be there, and they can misuse this comment, right? So that is something which we need to understand. What is that? Why, according to this, why did Prabhupada write like that? Anybody, any thoughts over it? Hare Krishna. Was it right? Chanakya's Pandit, Pandit, he's a great Pandit, no? He was, what is it? He was a counselor for the king, Ashoka, isn't it? Chanakya Pandit.
Yeah.
Any thoughts, Prabhuji? Sujit Singh? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes,
I
Prabhuji.
think instead of like Prabhupada wanted to mention that generally women are more emotional than men's, so they get easily manipulated, or they can be easily manipulated than men. So that's I think that's what the context he wanted to point out that through his writing.
Yes. Anybody else to add? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes,
Can
Mataji. Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Mataji.
Mataji, actually, I think Krishna is Param Purush, rest of all are Prakritis. Like only Krishna is Purush, and Prakriti, like, oh, we are the body, like we, how can I say, we are in a female body, we are soul in a female body. So Prabhupada wanted us to think like we are soul, like female body or male body, and we yeah we should not do our things like emotionally, and we should use our intelligence to tackle the problems of the life. Like that was what my thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Anybody else? Hare Krishna. There's somebody. Kamara Rao. Yes, Bhopali Das. Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji.
Maybe in those days, women were not much intelligent like the present day women. They were confined to home, looking after children.
Yes, Prabhuji. Ordinary women were like that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Others? Hare Krishna. So many others are there. Anushree Mataji, any comments?
Mataji, all is mentioned. I don't have any.
Okay. So the thing is, like, the women are generally emotional, as Prabhuji said, it's generally emotional, and they cannot think rationally. And actually, Chanakya Pandit was counseling the kings and things. So the kings and leaders, political, they have to take major decisions. They have a big agenda, lot of agenda. They have so many obligations, and they have to take such major decisions and strategies. They have to come out. So they can't be emotional. They have to be rationally. They have to take. So that sense he had told the women, and it is generally meant for ordinary women. But there are other, like, there was an example in Srimad Bhagavatam, that is in chapter, that was Bhagavatam, Canto 1, and it was in chapter 7, I think, chapter 7, yeah, where you have Ashwatthama will be brought in front of Draupadi. Okay, that was in chapter 7, right? So what happened is Ashwatthama would have sent the Brahmastra. No? He would have killed all the sons of Draupadi, right? In the battlefield when they were sleeping. And Arjuna would try to, coming to know that it was Ashwatthama, he would have been trying to chase him and catch him. So by getting scared of it, Ashwatthama would have released a Brahmastra. So then Arjuna had to counteract, and then finally they have to withdraw the Brahmastra and capture Ashwatthama. And he brings him in front of Draupadi, because let Draupadi deal with the what punishment has to be done. Actually, they wanted to execute, he and Bhima wanted to execute Ashwatthama. But when they bring in front of Draupadi, he would have been bound with ropes and he would be put in there. But Draupadi will be so compassionate. She says, how can, and that too your guru's son, he's a son of your guru, and you should not tie him like that. First you remove the ropes, and then she will be thinking, see, I have lost my son and sons, and I can understand how Dronacharya's wife, no, Kripi, she will also be, already she has lost her husband, and now she will be losing the son also. So she says she doesn't want him to be killed. So she will say, please release him out. And finally, they'll remove the jewel from his head and they'll release him out. Okay. So Draupadi was a devotee and she was compassionate even to her enemy. She didn't want that to happen even to her enemy or to other women. And though she has suffered by killing him, she won't get back her sons. So she was so that decision was taken by her emotions, right? So this is the general tendency for women because they're emotional. So that is the thing why I think. But this statement is done for ordinary women, and there are highly intelligent women, that is right, who can see that, right? So Chanakya Pandit says, never trust the politician and women, right? Of course, when women comes to Krishna consciousness, their position is different. So Prabhupada writes in this, he says, we are speaking of ordinary men. Women, Krishna says in another place, also he says, Shriyo, Vaishyas, Tata, Shudra, they are of less intelligent. Okay, this is only for ordinary women, not for Vaishnavis. So Prabhupada continues to say, in Bhagavad Gita it is stated, when the women become unchaste for want of proper protection, there are unwanted children called Varnashankara. To insult a chaste woman means to bring about disaster in the duration of life. See, this is what happened. They insulted Draupadi, right? Kauravas insulted Draupadi in the assembly of kings. And Draupadi was faultless. She was no way involved in the gambling. It was her husband who thing. And to pull her down and then insult her and disrobe her in front of in the big assembly of kings and the Hastinapur, where nobody came forward to protect her. When you insult such a chaste woman, it brings about disaster in the duration of life. So unchaste woman is different, whereas chaste woman, if you think, and if they are into Krishna consciousness and the Vaishnavis, and if you try to taking this comment and this thing and saying and try to insult them or be in that motive, then you bring disaster in the duration of life. So that we have to be very careful about the women. Okay. So this is something we need to keep in mind. So you just can't blindly take the comments also. We have to ponder over it and think in what context it's been written and how thing has been known. Okay. So Prabhupada writes, so that is it. And then when you look at the these questions. Now we come back. So that we covered about in these verses, that was the important point. Another point which we need to understand is when you look at the reasons which Arjuna gave, it looks very logical. He says how it is logical, no? He's being compassionate, how you can kill, even that feels logical and right to us, right? And enjoyment also, that is very pertinent. Even we won't like to have, we need to have people to share with, and there won't be any enjoyment. So that is right. Okay. It looks, whatever points he put, it looks like very right. And then it's quite logical and very pertinent. Then, and also crazy, it was a lot. Finally, what we have to understand is, and also when he says sinful reactions, that is also a thing is right? And is a dynasty. That also, the flow chart also looks very logical and nice. But why does it want to happen? Why did the Lord wanted the violence to take place? Why did the Lord wanted the battle to take place? Okay, so that is the $1 million question. Why did the Lord wanted it? He says, that's my plan that they should all be killed. Why? The main reason is, we have just said, no, the chaste woman was, his devotees were, if there was an insult to him, or insult or somebody retaliates to him, he will forgive. But if anybody insults or did aparadha to his devotees, then he'll never forgive. He will never forgive that. So this was what happened when it, okay, Pandavas, but ultimately they did was the disrobing of Draupadi. That was the ultimate thing, when he couldn't forgive anyone, even Bhishma Dev he couldn't forgive, because he was sitting there silently. He didn't try to come in the way to stop it. He didn't do it. All of them, Dhritarashtra, Dushasana, even Karna was quiet. Though Karna didn't agree to cheating, the gambling and all, which Shakuni was trying to propose, Karna was not for it. He said, let us fight. He was only wanting war. He wanted to wage war, but not to take up this cheating thing which Shakuni was proposing, right? But he kept quiet during the time when Draupadi was being raped, right? All of them. So Krishna will never forgive that. Even in during the battle when Karna, no, his chariot was stuck in the mud and he had to get down to lift it up. At that time, Krishna tells Arjuna, now is the time for you to kill Karna. So he will, because Arjuna does whatever Krishna says. So he takes up his bow and arrow and he was trying to bring. And looking at that, Karna will be shocked. He says, hey Arjuna, how can you shoot the arrow when I am down from a chariot and I am not with a weapon? You are not following the principles of Dharma. So then Krishna says, 14 years back, you're all been quiet. When Draupadi was insulted, that time you didn't think of Dharma, is it? And now you're talking about Dharma. So Krishna will never forgive for anyone, for if his devotees are a thing. So if their devotees are insulted or they're being thing, he will never correct. So he will never forgive those miscreants. So here, though Arjuna was as a natural devotee, he didn't want to retaliate against his cousins and brothers, but the Lord's plan was that they should be all killed. So that is what is, because he was not willing to forgive them. That is the whole crust of this whole thing, why the whole battle took place. Okay, it was the plan of the Lord, right? So everything has its property, and if people will think, no, Krishna, the Lord is like a terrorist. He was actually inducing Arjuna to fight, and he could have avoided the war. No, ultimate thing, when something has come and a punishment has to be given, you can't say no, because even in chapter 2, no, the Prabhupada gives a nice analogy. The surgeons, no, gives an example of the surgeon. He has to cut the body of the patient if he has to remove the tumor, right? He has to do the surgery. He has to cut. So it's not a violence. Even a High Court judge has to give capital punishment if there's a if that criminal has done a severe thing, he has to give his punishment accordingly to his crimes. So you can't say that. So here, violence will have its utility. There is a proper utility, but you have to use it properly. For what purpose? So here, the Lord was not willing to forgive the people who had done injustice to his devotee. And that to the ultimate thing. Even if the devotee will forgive him, but Lord won't forgive when it is happening to his devotees. That's how the whole thing has come. So violence also has its utility. That's what Prabhupada writes. Okay. So you can read this purport on their own. Nothing, that's no problem. So we looked at why violence is just here. And why did Krishna was all loving inside to Arjuna to war? Because the miscreants are done, mostly even to the chaste woman also, they had insulted it. Okay. So the other side, here we saw Duryodhana, he did not think in that way. Why is Arjuna thinking? Because he is a devotee. That is the difference. A devotee thinks like that. A devotee does not like to kill anyone, even an ant. So many atrocities were done to him. Still, when the question of killing came, he was not very happy. This is the Vaishnava. He was ready to excuse even the greatest enemy. Okay. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. That's how, when Narasimhadev comes into rescue of Prahalad. When it comes to him, he didn't mind. But when his own father, Hiranyakashipu, was doing that to his son, then finally, when Prahalad calls for him, he comes, isn't it? So the Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them. Okay? So you all understood this, that the whole thing, why it happened, and because many people think, why did the Lord allow for the war to take place and all that? And ultimately, when that comes, you have to put an end to it. They have to, then he has to remove them from the world. Then the Lord will come do this. That was his plan. And he will get it done through his devotee. Because that's how he says, Arjuna, you're just my instrument and you're going to do the killing. So if you insult his devotees, the devotee may excuse, but Krishna will not. This is Krishna's position. Therefore, be careful to insult a devotee. A devotee may excuse you, but Krishna will not excuse you. Krishna is so strict. He cannot tolerate any insult to his devotees. Therefore, this arrangement of fighting, Arjuna wanted, no, let them be excused. But Krishna wanted, no, you must fight. You must kill them. So this is from the lecture when he gave to them, right? So I think you'll have to go through read the chapter in the notes and also the self-study questions and analysis for this chapter. You can have any questions to think, you can go through that and you can come back the next class to ask. Okay. Now it's the open question. So what did we do today? We discussed Arjuna's first 4 reasons for not fighting. And we'll see in the next chapter how Krishna is going to give counter arguments for these reasons. We will see that. Okay. And then response to these. Then we listed the progressive steps leading towards destruction of the dynasty. We looked at the progress steps and we're discussing even the relevance of that. Even today we see that happening. And we also looked at this. Women are not generally not very intelligent, appropriate application and inappropriate. Then violence also has an utility in relation to Battle of Kurukshetra and current issues of religious violence with repressed. Okay. So with the quote from Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord so that human society can be perfectly organized from all angles of vision, politically, socially, economically, philosophically, and religiously. From any point of view, human society can be reformed by Krishna consciousness movement. Okay, this is from Madhya Leela. With this, I'll close. Hare Krishna, Prabhupada ki Jai.